Hey everyone, the hour of 10 a.m. having come and
Recording
gone. The
in
Housing
progress.
Committee shall come to order. Do we have any subletters? Nope. Any Republican subletters? Nope. All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Jimenez.
Present.
Wynn.
Here.
Grant. Canty. Coffee. Davis. Deuter. Gazzardi.
Here.
Hallbrook. Lilly. Mussman. Rashid. Rita. Sanalitra. Sheehan. Stava. Weaver. West.
We got it. All right, with 10 members present, a quorum is present. So we got Ranking Dem in the chair, and today we're doing a subject matter hearing. This is House Bill 4964, and the chair recognizes Chair Jimenez to present House Bill 4964.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Wynn, and all of the members of the committee. Presenting today House Bill 4964. House Bill 4964 is a bill that promotes transparency, fairness, and consumer confidence. We have introduced this bill, which aimed at boosting transparency and boosting consumer confidence in residential real estate transactions. Buying or selling a home is likely the most significant financial decision a person will make. Yet some home listings are kept from the general public and marketed only to a select audience that has signed on with a certain brokerage. This means most people are unable to compete for the homes that might work best for their family and budget. And sellers are not earning as much because their audience of buyers is smaller. It's a win only for big brokerages that can collect part of the agent fee for both the buyer and the seller. What this bill does is it seeks to ensure that your constituents who are selling homes have a complete understanding of where and how their property will be marketed, rather than allowing those homes to be marketed to fewer people without the seller having proactively made that choice. Importantly, this legislation will also help prevent fair housing discrimination, which has been shown to be an issue in private listing networks. Illinois would be joining Wisconsin, where a similar bill passed unanimously last year, and Washington, where another bill is moving quickly through the legislative process. This bill aligns with the current policy instituted by the National Association of Realtors called the Clear Cooperation Policy, and the bill would expand this transparency requirement to all real estate licensees, regardless of whether they are a realtor member. HB 4964 establishes the following common sense requirements for listing firms representing residential sellers. Share property information and respond to all reasonable inquiries by buyer's representative to ensure all home buyers have access to homes for sale to prevent fair housing discrimination. 2, make the for sale property accessible for showings. And 3, market the property broadly online, unless the seller chooses to opt out by initiating a specific disclosure. The seller still retains the right to market their home as they see fit, publicly or privately. But this legislation will ensure sellers are properly informed before deciding what is best. I have a few witnesses here, Chair, but we also have a proponent that has asked to speak, and I'm more than willing to have them speak first if they'd like to, and then we could have the opponent speak first if that makes sense for you, Chair, and then the proponents. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Representative Jimenez. We're just going to read some other representatives into the roll call. So let's add Representative Grant to the roll call, Representative Sheehan, and Representative West to the roll call as well. And then with your request, we would love to have the opponent, Malia Carter from the Illinois Realtors Association, come up to the forefront and present your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Malia Carter, and I'm the Vice President of Government Affairs with the Illinois Realtors. I'm here to register our opposition to House Bill 4964 for quite a few reasons. First, the Illinois Real Estate License Act governs the licensure, education, investigation, and disciplinary processes for Illinois real estate professionals. It's not, and it shouldn't be, an artificial marketplace, which in short is what House Bill 4964 does. Just to explain, when marketing properties owned by sellers, brokers typically submit those listings to their MLSs. These efficient marketplaces have existed within the industry for decades. Over those many years, rules have been developed both within the industry and statutorily that govern the fair, anti-discriminatory, and competitive processes and practices of all brokers who participate. As a consequence today, most properties listed for sale with a broker will be marketed publicly and on the MLS to other brokers immediately. The Illinois Real Estate License Act already includes duties requiring brokers to serve their clients' best interests and follow their clients' lawful direction, as well as to comply with other federal, state, and local laws, rules, and regulations. Because this system has created such a reliable and highly efficient pro-consumer marketplace for the brokerage of real estate, over the years, other business models have arisen that seek to take advantage of this centralized market, including the widespread internet distribution of property listings. House Bill 4964 seeks to codify the internet business model into law. You may hear some argue that it's necessary for consumer protection and to prevent discrimination, but those are really red herrings because we've seen proponents that have attempted to cite studies supporting these claims, but these studies have been largely funded by the proponents. The truth behind this proposal is that this legislation is to prop up or support a particular business model for a particular company. That is the internet portal-based business models, so that businesses like this would have free access to all listings on which they can monetize ad revenue based on web traffic, and then they can sell leads to other agents based on those listings. Not only does the primary proponent of this legislation seek to use Illinois law to protect their business model, but it also relates specifically to pending litigation in other states on this same issue. Illinois Realtors is the voice of real estate in Illinois, and in that capacity, we support all legal business models for real estate brokerage, and importantly, we believe strongly that Illinois law should not be used to protect or support one business model over another. To be clear, real estate multiple listing services represent the big market for purposes of proprietary listings, and Illinois Realtors support that big market for, among other reasons, the fact that it provides the most access to listings for all buyers. All Illinois MLS systems have robust rules and regulations around timing for brokers to submit listings to the MLS marketplace, which have combined with existing Illinois law ensure the most efficient pro-consumer marketplace possible. However, House Bill 4964 would restrict a seller's private property rights in the name of protecting one type of business, thereby eliminating a seller's ability to direct how and when their property is listed for sale. House Bill 4964 would dictate that an internet business has more of a right to determine how your home is sold than the actual sellers themselves. Today, Illinois real estate professionals are duty-bound to adhere to all legal and ethical requirements in addition to lawful direction of their sellers. This proposed legislation would substitute one business type's judgment for your own as property owner. This is not the purpose of Illinois law, and it's never been the purpose or domain of the professional licensing statute. Bottom line, we're the realtors. We do support all business models. Our position is that these companies should duke it out in the marketplace and not use state law to prop up one business over another, and not allow sellers to have the right to list their property the way they see fit. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We're going to read the witness slips of the proponents into the record. There's about 29 witness slips, so we're going to ask for leave for those 29. Thank you so much, spokesperson, for granting leave. And then we'll read the top 3. Well, actually, okay, we'll read the opponent first then. So that's Malia Carter from the Illinois Realtors Association,
Yeah.
oral testimony, and then we'll read no position.
Yeah, we already testified, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
Brad Cole from the Illinois Municipal League, Caitlin Meacham from the Illinois Municipal League, Tushar Hansal from Pew Charitable Trust, and Emily Bloom Carlin from Metropolitan Planning Council. So we're going to now start with the proponents. First, we have Beth Wanless from Zillow. If you can please come to the podium. Thank you. And present your testimony.
Good morning. Oh, thank you. Good morning. My name is Beth Wanless, and I'm the Senior Manager of Government Relations at Zillow, also a former Illinois resident who bought and sold a few homes here. I am here to testify in strong support of House Bill 4964, legislation to ensure greater transparency, consumer protection, and fair housing in residential real estate. I would also like to thank House leadership, Chair Jimenez, and members of this committee for letting me be here today. Unfortunately, a troubling trend has taken hold within the residential real estate industry, particularly here in Illinois. Many brokerages have pushed home sellers to keep their listings private, marketing them only within that brokerage rather than to the broader public. In practice, that means a home is only seen by brokers within that brokerage and the buyers they choose to tell. You are probably wondering what this looks like in practice. For example, a divorcing couple's broker encourages them to skip the open market, pitching a private network as the only discrete solution for their sensitive solution. The home went under contract twice and fell out twice, which is odd for such a dynamic market such as Chicago. When the sellers asked to list their house publicly to attract more buyers and finalize the sale, their broker refused. The home eventually sold, but for less than the asking price, and with strange contingencies they were forced to accept because they were in a serious time crunch. The woman suspected they had left money on the table, but emotionally exhausted and embarrassed, she quietly moved on. What the couple didn't know, a privacy option already exists within the MLS. A broker can simply click a button online to keep a home off public websites like Zillow and Realtor.com and Homes.com. and others, while still listing it in the public MLS where other brokers can find it and bring it to their buyer clients. The couple got none of that exposure and none of that information. And because no disclosure were required, they had no idea what they were giving up. This is actually not a fake anecdote. This is a true story from somebody I know. The financial cost of sellers is real and measurable. Zillow's research shows that sellers in the Chicago market who don't list their home on the MLS lose an average of almost $7,000 on the sale. Nationally, sellers transact on the MLS earn 1.5% less than those who list it publicly, which results in about $1 billion lost over the last 2 years. You don't have to take our word for it. The San Francisco Association of Realtors also ran a study and found the losses were closer to $30,000 per property in loss if they sell off market in a private market. The issue is not, and I would be happy to give all this information to you as a follow-up. The issue is not just isolated to sellers, and arguably the implications are far more dangerous for buyers. Let's say there's a mom who's been saving for years to buy a modest condo near her daughter's school. She searches and searches, but cannot find anything within her budget. Her lease is up, and she is forced to move because her unit has already been rented out. She has to move to another school area, one that her daughter does not attend, because she cannot find anything to purchase. A few weeks later, mom is scrolling Facebook and sees a photo of a friend who just closed on a condo in her old neighborhood. Mom knows exactly where that condo is. It's a 2-bedroom within walking distance to her daughter's school. This would have been perfect for her to buy. She scours the internet, but there is no listing information. There's no history whatsoever. That condo was being sold in a private network, visible to only the buyers who worked with that specific brokerage and who the broker chose to share it with. Mom never had a chance. This is not a unique story. It's happening all over Illinois, and the problem is only growing. Private listings chip away at the strides the Fair Housing Act has made over the last 60 years. Zillow's analysis of Midwestern real estate data, or MRED, found that homes in majority white neighborhoods are 2.2 times more likely to be hidden away from others in private networks than homes in majority non-white neighborhoods. That is not a marginal difference, it is a pattern. The Fair Housing Act of 1968 was enacted to dismantle systems of exclusion that denied certain communities equal access to housing. As the Consumer Federation of America and the Urban League have noted, these exclusive private listings reduce opportunities for first-time homebuyers, and previous research has found that they can perpetuate racial exclusion and discriminatory steering. Buyers, disproportionately first-generation homebuyers and buyers of color, are shut out of these opportunities they don't even know exist. The National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, or NAHREP, said, quote, "Transparency is crucial for preventing this kind of exclusionary practices that have disproportionately affected communities of color. Any deviation from this principle is a direct attack on the progress we have made in fostering a more equitable housing market." NAHREP has also called for an open and transparent market to ensure that business owners, minority and small business owners, have a chance at success, saying, quote, "Fair access to property information is vital for the health of the real estate industry itself, particularly for small businesses and independent brokerages. A significant portion of NAHREP's membership, more than 68%, consists of small business owners who rely on equal access to property listings to serve their clients effectively. Without such policies, larger brokerages could manipulate listing access to their advantage, creating an uneven playing field and disadvantaging smaller brokerages." Of course, we all know we are in the middle of an affordability crisis. Buyers of every background are struggling to navigate high home prices, elevated interest rates, and limited supply. Restricting access to available homes just makes this worse. If you can't see a home, you can't buy a home. That's why this legislation is so important. So why would a real estate professional want to limit the exposure to a home for sale? It seems like Economics 101 that you would want the most eyes to view that property to get the best terms for the sale. The answer is financial. If the listing broker also finds a buyer, instead of the buyer having an agent from a different brokerage, they can keep the commissions within that brokerage and make more money, which is called double-ending the deal. The seller has no idea this financial incentive is driving the recommendation to limit their home's exposure. So just to clarify what this bill does and does not do, because I believe that's probably been misconstrued sometimes, it directs the listing firms representing the residential sellers to broadly market their property unless the seller opts out by initialing a disclosure form. It also explains that reduced exposure may affect sale terms. All true things. The seller's broker must also share information, respond to inquiries, and make the property available for showings to prevent fair housing violations. Additionally, it's important to note that the bill does not require listings go on Zillow. I know that's been said over and over. That is categorically false. It does not require a listing to be marketed publicly at all. It still allows a private property owner to maintain privacy and even sell their home in a private listing network if they decide that is best for their needs. The property owner still maintains total control over how their home is sold, just like now. They're just doing it eyes wide open. Illinois would be joining other states like Washington and Wisconsin. Both have passed bipartisan, unanimously approved legislation, and I wanted to note those bills were both brought forward by Wisconsin Realtors Association and Washington Association of Realtors. Other states such as New York and Hawaii have bills moving through the process. And just Monday evening of this week, Connecticut Realtors passed a very similar bill that actually has stronger protections for consumers. It's now on the way to the governor. So in conclusion, we really appreciate you letting us be here today to speak on the truth of what this legislation is and what the issue really is. House Bill 4964 promotes fairness, transparency, and open market, and giving buyers equal access to opportunities and giving sellers the complete picture they deserve before making one of the biggest financial decisions of their lives. Thank you so much for your time. I deeply appreciate it.
We're going to take questions towards the very end once we have all the proponents. Thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have Michael Chavaria from the Hope Fair Housing Center. Please come to provide your testimony. Thank you.
Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, so there's another, after him, there's another one, and then we can take questions. Representative Grant, thank you. And then we'll add Representative Will Davis to the roll as well. Thank you. All right, whenever you're ready, Michael. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join you and speak with you about this important topic. So my name is Michael Chavarria. I serve as the Executive Director of Hope Fair Housing Center. We are the state's oldest and largest fair housing organization. We are a civil rights organization. We have no financial stake in this game whatsoever. I do not care who makes money off of a transaction. What I care about is ensuring that we do not allow our state to slip further back into the pre-Fair Housing Act era where we have redlining and increased segregation. I want to ensure that consumers are informed and have free access to the full slate of options when they are making the largest financial purchase that they and their family will ever make. That is the interest that I bring to this conversation. So, to be clear, the issue addressed within HB 4964 at its core is about ensuring people have a fair chance to see the homes that are available to them within Illinois. And I want to explain what I mean by that. So through decades of progress, the home buying process has moved into the open, right? We've expanded, and today we start our search online. We can see what is for sale, where, and for how much. We can explore and plan before ever speaking to an agent. But some brokerages are pushing us backward, away from this open market. Instead of open access, they are building private listing networks where you cannot even see what homes exist until you first go through them. Access to housing is no longer public, it is controlled. And this should sound very familiar to everyone in this room. Not long ago, buyers had to rely on brokers flipping through physical binders filled with listings that brokers decided what to show and what to withhold. Buyers had no way of knowing what they were not seeing. This is classical pre-Fair Housing Act steering. That system enabled race-based steering and helped entrench the segregation that we all inherited. That type of system is exactly why the Fair Housing Act of 1968 was passed. Private listing networks risk recreating that same structure, not necessarily through intent. I want to be clear. I don't believe that anyone intends for this to happen, but it will happen through design. When access to homes depends on networks and those networks reflect existing racial and economic divides, exclusion becomes predictable. Steering becomes more likely, whether intentional or not. But it doesn't end there. Discrimination won't just become more likely, it will also become more difficult to combat because these systems make discrimination extremely difficult to detect. If a buyer is never shown a home and that home is never publicly listed, how would they know? How could they ever identify that they were treated differently? And how can an organization like the one that I work for investigate their claim that they have been discriminated against, that they were not shown or given access to the predominantly white community, to the community that has the school that meets their child's needs? People need to have access to information, especially information about the communities that we make. You cannot enforce fair housing laws in a system where the information needed to identify discrimination is hidden. And we also have to be honest about how people actually search for housing today. Most buyers start online, not with an agent. So when listings are kept off public platforms, they're not just private, they are effectively invisible to a large share of the market. That means access to housing is increasingly tied to who you know, I think I'm repeating myself, but who you know, who represents you, and who you can afford to pay to represent you. That is key here. It's about who you can afford to pay, what private listing network you can buy into. So there's already an upfront fee just to search. At a time when Illinois is working to attract and retain residents, we are making it harder for people to even explore whether they want to live here. Imagine a young professional or a family considering a job opportunity in Illinois. Before they apply, before they interview, they want to understand what homes are available to them, what neighborhoods might fit their needs, and whether this is a place they can see themselves building a life. But if listings are increasingly private, they cannot do that. They cannot search, they cannot compare, they cannot explore. Instead, they would have to hire a real estate agent just to see what homes exist before they have even taken that job interview, let alone accepted a job or decided to move to Illinois. That is not how a healthy or competitive housing market works, and it is not how a state positions itself to attract new residents. This also has real consequences for the real estate industry itself. Private listing networks tend to concentrate access within larger, well-resourced brokerages that can maintain these internal networks. That makes it harder for smaller and minority-owned brokerages to compete because they are less likely to have access to the same inventory. And when those brokerages are cut out, so are the clients they serve, so are the communities they serve. So this is not just about consumer protection, it is also about whether we are creating a more equitable marketplace for professionals and businesses in this space. And importantly, the policy solution being discussed here is very simple. This proposal does not ban private listing networks. It does not eliminate flexibility for sellers. It does not prevent brokers from offering these strategies. It simply requires that brokers clearly disclose the pros and cons so that sellers can make informed decisions. That is a minimal common sense standard, and it is worth asking why there is resistance to something so straightforward. Because brokers and brokerages do receive real benefits from private listings, just as Beth explained. They can control access to listings, increase the likelihood of keeping both sides of a transaction, and strengthen their ability to capture these clients within their own networks. Those are business advantages, but they are not always aligned with the best outcome for the seller of those homes, and they are certainly not aligned with the transparency for buyers. So when the industry resists even basic disclosure requirements, it raises a fair question. If private listing networks are truly beneficial for consumers, why not fully explain those benefits and risks and let the market decide? Why not trust informed sellers to choose? At its core, this is about transparency. An opposition to transparency, especially in a transaction as significant as the sale of a home, should give us all pause. We are not saying private listings should never happen. There are legitimate reasons for privacy, but sellers should make that decision with full, accurate information, and right now, too often, they are not. When I sold my first home, I was taught, I'm a fair housing professional. I live and breathe and think about this stuff all day, every day. I was talked into a pocket listing. I had no comprehension. Selling a home is very complex and overwhelming, and I realized I made a bad mistake. Once we opened our home up to the full market, we got offers left and right. People were bidding against themselves. We got more for our house than I would have paid for it. The open market is the best solution. It is basic economics. The proposal before you is a common sense approach. It does not ban private listings. It simply requires agents clearly explain the pros and cons so that sellers can make an informed decision. It protects consumer choice while preserving transparency. At the end of the day, our state has a choice to make. We can put reasonable guardrails in place now to protect transparency and fair housing, or we can sit back and watch as a few of the wealthiest brokerages play monopoly with our properties. From a fair housing perspective and from a competitiveness perspective, that is a risk we should not take. So I want to leave you all with one question that I wrestle with when I think about this topic, and that is, how do we continue working to desegregate our communities if we are allowing the home listings themselves to become segregated? Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for that. We actually have one last proponent. So we're going to call the last proponent. It's Nick Libert from the Exit Strategy Realty, and then after that, we'll take questions from members. Thank you.
So, good morning, and thank you for your time. I know some of you have some other place to be soon, so I'll try to be brief. My name is Nick Libert. I'm the broker owner of Exit Strategy Realty in Chicago. I am not one of those online portals. I am Main Street, not Wall Street. Pretty much the furthest thing you can get from Wall Street. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I try to stay in my lane and sell real estate. I used to be in politics. I was on my city council and county board way back in the day in Indiana. But when I moved to Chicago 22 years ago, I dedicated myself to real estate, and I've been in real estate actually full-time for almost 28 years now. And I oversee a brokerage of 261 real estate agents across the city of Chicago and the suburbs. We sell all types of property, residential, commercial, investment, but we do a lot of first-time buyers, a lot of people in areas that are not maybe the most economically advantaged. So I see all property types. We've been blessed to help over 13,000 families across Chicagoland empower their lives through property. So I've seen a lot of different types of real estate and different types of transactions out there. When I first became a real estate agent, I signed the Realtor Code of Ethics, and I take that very seriously every day in my practice. As the private listing network has developed in our local MLS over the years, I think originally it was meant to be something that was, for celebrities or people with high net worth, or they were going through a divorce or an illness, there was a place for the private listing network. But what it's become is basically an aberration to the market, where you're seeing now it's something much more nefarious. It's not in alignment with the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics or consumer choice. What I'm seeing in my day-to-day practice as an agent, because I still practice real estate, I coach my agents, but I'm still out in the field with them. What we're seeing every day is these consumers, they're left in the dark, because the vast majority of real estate agents, and I'm glad that the Illinois Association of Realtors is here. I used to be on the board of the Illinois Association of Realtors. I'm actually surprised that their stance is what they are today. I was on the board of the Chicago Association of Realtors the last 3 terms, and I don't think they're feeling the same way that the Illinois Association of Realtors is, or at least they're not here today. The bottom line is buyers are left in the dark. If you go on Realtor.com, Zillow, Redfin, any of these online portals. I used to work with Beth when she was at the local level. The online portals, they're not bad, but guess what? Main Street, the regular consumer, they go on these online portals and they're not seeing up to 25% of the properties that are on the market in Chicagoland. So in certain neighborhoods, it's 33% the other day when I checked in one neighborhood. They're not seeing this stuff. And so the consumer, the seller, number one, they get told by certain companies, not mine, certain companies that, oh, put it in the private and it'll be a better experience for you. In reality, they're losing sometimes $100,000 plus in equity. I can show you case studies. I can show you my own buyers that, because I have access to the private listing network and understand how to use it and spend $5,000 to $10,000 on a month on a certain technology tool that gets the consumer access to it, but most consumers don't have access to it. Most real estate agents don't understand how to navigate it, and therefore the vast majority of consumers, and quite frankly real estate agents, are left in the dark, which means you are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity sometimes as a homeowner when you go to sell your house and you put it on the private listing network. As a buyer, you are missing out on some of the best properties on the market. And here we are excluding a portion of our community, when I thought, when I signed my contract or my association at the National Association of Realtors and the Chicago Association of Realtors and the Illinois Association of Realtors, that we were here for fair housing and fair choice. So I can give you specific transactions, but I just don't understand the need, when there's other means, to have a listing be dealt with in terms of security issues or privacy issues or health issues. There is not a need for a private listing network, and the way that this House bill would work would put this more in line with what the community needs. Thank you for your time. I know you're all busy, but I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you so much, Nick, for that. We will now take questions from members. Spokesperson's Coffee.
Yeah, thank you very much. So are you saying that you can't have any pocket listings? Is that what this does? It eliminates the pocket listing?
This does not allow you to not have pocket. It still gives the consumer choice, but there's the option to put it on the private and then eventually go to the public.
Right. All this says, you can still have a pocket listing or a private listing, totally. You can still do that. I know this committee has been told that's not true, but that's not the case. All you will get as a seller is information as to what putting your home on a private market would do. It's the exact same language that passed in Washington, Wisconsin, New York, Connecticut. It's just a disclosure form to the seller so they know what they're getting into, so to speak. But you could still put your home in a private listing with this legislation. This does not stop that. And it also does not require a home to go, if it is listed publicly, it is not required to be on Zillow. It's not required to be on Redfin, Realtor.com, Homes.com. It just has to be public, so it's not hidden behind a firewall or a paywall.
Can I add something to that? So remember, realtors are independent contractors. And so they are under no duty, and although they should be, to be trained as well as they should be to understand what the private listing network is or isn't. So these disclosure forms are critical in order for the consumer to understand what the agent should be telling them, but oftentimes isn't, or certain companies are telling them not to disclose.
Give me an example of what you're talking about. What is this information that we're, because I've done pocket listings myself several times because I don't want a bunch of people come to my house. You know, I've got several realtors in town. I said, here, yeah, you can sell my house, go ahead, but I don't want people coming through and everybody, oh, where are you moving and all that stuff. So what information are they withholding that me as a seller would need?
Well, so you're a savvy seller, and you've just made a personal choice, consumer choice, to decide that you don't want your listing on the open market. And quite frankly, sir, you're doing a disservice to yourself because you haven't let all the eyeballs see it where you could get more offers on your property and get a higher price. So you and your family have lost out on some potential equity opportunities to go and invest your. I can show you.
Well, you can give examples in Chicago, but not in Springfield, Illinois.
Oh, absolutely. Do you have a private listing network in Springfield?
Yes, there's actually, I think about 22% of homes listed in Springfield are privately listed. It's a significant number. For some reason, there's a market hold down here that private listings are very prevalent.
Well, give me this example of private listing. Because give me an example of these houses in Springfield, these 22% that are on these private listings. What?
You mean like an address?
Well, I don't understand.
I can make a video for you of literally specific examples of where my buyers, because I've spent $5,000 to $10,000 a month as a broker owner, which most broker owners don't do, in order to get a tool that gets the private listing network out to the consumer where they can see this stuff. Otherwise, they're not seeing your property. And so you as a seller are missing out on opportunities to have more people, I know, inside your home and asking questions, but that would drive the price up. So it's your choice, absolutely. We're not taking away consumer choice.
So if these are listed, can anybody come see them? Are you trying to get out of the MLS system and get out of the realtor network?
Absolutely not at all. I love being a member of the National Association of Realtors. I proudly pay my dues every year. And, you know, I'm one of only 2 certified trainers in RPR, Realtors Property Resource, one of the best things we get out of our National Association of Realtors dues. I'm a proud member, and I will continue to always be, as will all my agents. That's not the issue here.
Is there a way we can have somebody from the realtors up here instead of all of you know, because you're stating facts on behalf of this private network, so I'd like to hear from them.
Well, I'm not on behalf of a private listed network. I'm against them.
You're giving.
Sure, thank you. I'm sorry, as a sponsor, I just wanted to ask, you know, our proponents to come up. I apologize. I was told that you had to leave, but I would love for you to have.
I testified and came back.
Wonderful. So she's back to testify. Thank you so much.
So can you kind of explain your side of it?
Regarding discrimination issues, Illinois real estate brokers have a law. We have a Real Estate License Act. We are also guided by federal law. And those brokers have a fiduciary duty to disclose all material information to their seller clients, including all offers, buyer willingness to increase offers, potential conflicts of interest, et cetera. They must also disclose known material property defects to potential buyers, although the primary duty for the property condition rests on the seller. Now, if a real estate broker is doing these things and not disclosing information to the seller and misleading them, they could lose their license, and that would happen immediately. So there are already provisions in the Real Estate License Act that cares for discrimination and things of that sort, without going into creating a new bill. I think our concern is that sellers should have the right to list the property as they see fit. There's a lot of reasons why people may do a private listing. They may have an elderly person that has a hospital bed in their, you know, living room, and they don't want people traipsing through their you know, home. They could have, you know, they could be a celebrity. They could, you know, have a situation where they don't want somebody to know that they're selling a house. Maybe they're in a domestic domestic violence situation or other things. So, there are reasons that a seller may choose to do that. And, from our perspective, it's up to the seller to make those decisions. And as I said, if a broker is doing these abhorrent things that they're claiming to do, they would lose their real estate license.
And
As a broker owner of, I'd like to interject here for a second. As a broker owner of a firm with 261 agents, I hate paperwork. I don't want to have to deal with another piece of paper. So I absolutely appreciate in theory, and most of the time I'm always like, that's why I pay my dues to the Illinois Association of Realtors. This is one of the few times where I'm like, why are we not on the same page today? I want this additional piece of paperwork and pain in the butt for all my agents because I see in the field every day where, yes, in theory, our agents should be doing exactly that. Why am I not on camera? All right.
Thank you so much. We're going to put.
This is the problem. It's not just Chicago. It's everywhere. Realtors are not doing their job.
Great. Thank you for that. I'm going to put Representative Will Davis in the chair now.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanted to, repeat what we have heard from some of our witnesses, that these listings based on the issues you mentioned, like illness and other reasons, and to your point, spokesperson, some of us may want to do private listings because we deal with a lot of security issues as state representatives, and so there are very legitimate reasons. And so if I have to go through that again, I might have to because of what you just mentioned. However, this bill does not prevent us from doing what we need to do and having private listings what we need to. It is simply a disclosure bill. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. Thank you.
And my last question is, it seems like you've got this detailed information of a lot of discrimination that's going on. Are you doing anything to prosecute these people that are discriminating? I mean, because I live in a different town. I don't think there's real estate discrimination in the town that you can say there is. I live in one of the nicest neighborhoods in the whole city, and it's got diverse people living all around me. So I find it harder to understand, and maybe where you live it's different, but where
I live in 60657, one of the nicest zip codes in Chicago. And let me tell you, it's the most diverse. You see a little bit of everybody. It's a cornucopia, and you still get folks that are doing stuff that they just shouldn't do in the back of their minds. And if you don't have proper disclosure and savvy agents and brokers that understand what's going on, either there are companies in their ear to tell them one thing because they don't want competition, they want a monopoly, certain brands, but also beyond that, it's not just about that. It's just some agents just don't get it. They don't listen to their managing broker, or they're not paying attention to the emails and the webinars and the continuing education, all the stuff they're supposed to be doing, but they're not.
So then what are your groups doing then to go after these people that are not doing
Can I answer?
doing things in the proper way?
If you don't mind, I did want to, as I appreciate that question. I actually have a case that I'd like to refer for some possible situation that arose. So I would like to raise it. I know you mentioned from the realtors that people could lose their license. How to your question, what is a redress? Like what can a consumer do if we find that they are violating fair housing? And then after that, I did want to give an opportunity for our fair housing expert to answer, and then to if the chair will allow it.
The Real Estate License Act actually has like 47 different things that realtors could be held accountable for, which would cause them to lose their license. Outlined in that act is a process for remedies and how that works. It's a pretty extensive act. Also, we are in the process, the act is going to sunset in 2030 next year.
Is it a private right of action, or is it a complaint with an agency?
I believe it's a private right of action, but I can check on that.
Okay, thank you. If our witness could speak to the fair housing, so Chair, is that?
Of course.
Is that okay? Thank you.
Yeah, so to the question.
Before you go, so you're answering his question, right?
Yeah, you mind?
Yeah, no, go
restating your
right ahead. I'm
question?
done. I've asked you all the stuff, so.
Yeah,
whatever you
'cause
want to say.
I took it as like a general
Yeah,
question
it
around,
is a general.
around discrimination. So first and foremost, you know, unfortunately, I have a job because discrimination remains rampant across this state. I represent one of about 10 organizations that are dedicated to combating fair housing because fair housing is very much an issue that we need to keep fighting for within this state. My position, our organization, Hope Fair Housing Center's position on the importance of this bill is that discrimination will be a natural result of this shift towards private listing networks. As private listing networks become more robust, easier for agents to tap into, more sophisticated, people are going to be shut out of access to these communities. It will just occur naturally. If I don't have the ability to hire the boutique, super well-resourced real estate agent who pays $5,000 to $10,000 a month to see these houses, I will never see houses. I will never even begin to dream of the American dream because I can't see the house that's perfect fit for my family on the other side of the highway.
And just because you go to a certain company that may look like they have all the tools, it's up to the individual independent contractor agent to know and engage those tools. And half the time, even, you know, an agent at a good firm isn't properly using the tools. So if there's a mandatory form, as much as I hate paperwork, yes. I'm sorry, that's where, and trust me, I didn't want to be here today, but that's where we're at.
And if I can, so on the point of reporting, you know, in our organization, we receive complaints, about 400 complaints of illegal housing discrimination a year from the public. The way people can make complaints is they have to know their rights were violated. They have to know what their rights were and that they were violated. And if you don't know you weren't shown a house, you don't know they were violated. So you can't even make the complaint. You were discriminated against without ever knowing it. If I don't know that the realtor is going to benefit financially from double ending the transaction and making money from selling and from buying, then how will I know to report to the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulations that the realtor didn't meet their fiduciary duty? I hired a realtor because they're an expert in the real estate industry. I need the disclosure so I can fact check them and make sure that they are representing my family's best interest.
Isn't there a form for that? Isn't there a form?
No, not at this time. And that goes back to you as a savvy seller. You understand that, but not everyone's going to be as savvy as you.
The forms I filled out, you know, it shows you what the buyer's agent gets and the seller's agents get. And that, didn't they switch that to where you have to have a buyer's agent and a seller's agent? And if you do it together, then you have to sign a form saying that you do it together.
That's dual agency, but that is not full disclosure of how your property's marketed or not marketed on the full MLS and full transparency. That's the difference.
Well, he was just talking about commissions, and now you're talking about marketing. So I'm talking about the commission side. So you just switched it from, he's talking commissions, and you just switch it to marketing. So.
Well, they're all tied together.
Just to answer the prior question that the chairwoman had, yes, there is definitely a PRA in the Real Estate License Act within the agency duties article. So not only can they lose their license, there is a private right of action that if somebody is, a broker does something that violates the act, they could be sued.
Okay, no more questions.
Representative, are you finished with your questions?
Yes.
All right, moving on
I have
further
a question
questions.
that might
I have a list.
I'm sorry?
Representative, I have a list and you're on it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that Wynn was doing it.
He transferred the chair to me.
And so I did not see you back
No,
there. I'm sorry.
I have a list.
Okay.
You're on it.
I'm sorry, Representative.
Next is Representative Santalitra.
Thank you. So I just have a couple questions, or one question. If this is opened up, will the seller basically make more money, right, on their home?
Well, it's up to the seller. It's seller's choice. It's consumer choice. So the seller has the option to, once they understand the dynamics, make more money potentially, and the buyer has the option to see more homes. So it's a win-win for both sellers and buyers when they're on the open market, but obviously it doesn't take away the choice to be on the private listing network if you've got a specific situation like both of you were referencing.
If we're opening it up to sellers potentially selling their home for more money, that means that basically buyers will have to pay more. So we're raising the cost of housing and
No, you're actually not, because you're
in a
not.
market where it's already critical and we cannot find, there's a crisis happening.
That's
Everybody's
absolutely there
talking
is.
about it.
1000% there
And
is.
if housing becomes more expensive, then they'll only drive out more people from Illinois to other states. While I don't believe that housing is the real issue, it's really property taxes and everything else that's happening in our state that,
You're
you know, when property taxes have been raised 37 times by
1000%.
the governor, you know, you know that this is a huge problem, but raising property prices when you're
this is
buying a
not
home
raising
is
property
going to create
prices.
even a bigger crisis.
This is
So
not
for
raising
that-
property prices. Actually, in the inventory,
Hold on, sir.
inventory.
Sir,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
can we let the representative get her?
I'm sorry. Sorry.
I'm
Yeah.
dealing with that. Okay. Just address the chair. You don't have to address the folks. Can we let her finish her question, please, sir? Thank you.
For that, I believe I'm a no. Sorry, thank you.
I'm so sorry about that.
Thank you very much, Representative. Moving on, next question, Representative Weaver.
Can I get the answer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this has been a really robust discussion. I appreciate it because I don't think I quite understood what was happening when I came in. So I just maybe want to repeat back to make sure I'm understanding. So today, realtors have an obligation to market homes in a certain way. The proponents believe that's not happening appropriately, and the suggestion is that by adding a form to the documents is going to ameliorate that issue. So the back and forth is, do we add this form or not? Is that accurate summation?
Representative, is that what the bill is attempting to do?
I just want to make sure our witness has a chance to answer the question fully so that we're on the same page.
Yes, sir. Effectively, it requires information to be shared to the seller, and then the disclosure, and then also another additional part of the legislation would require cooperation between agents for a property that's for sale, so you can't hide a property from certain people.
So it's currently required. We just don't believe that it's being followed appropriately, and the form will address that.
It's not required.
It's not required?
No.
Okay, so I guess, can you explain, I was under the impression that your point was that realtors have a strict duty of conduct?
Yes. It's up to the seller to decide how they want their property listed.
Yeah, and that doesn't change, correct? Correct. The form just ensures that they have the information, that they have that choice. And the concern is that if it's not being marketed fairly, discrimination could arise. And I guess I just feel like the discrimination point is a little bit of a stretch for me. As an example, I recently had some rims that I sold. I went on Facebook Marketplace, I sold those rims. Is the discrimination point that I should have sold them on Craigslist, and I should have put a sign on there, like I didn't market them broadly enough, and because of that, I was selective in who my potential customers were?
Well, rims aren't a protected class. They're not protected, but.
Well, but housing isn't. Houses are an asset, just like rims. I'm just drawing a comparison that I didn't market it broadly. Is would I have been classified as discriminating because I didn't market it broadly? Because what I'm hearing here is that they have these pocket listings, and because they're not marketed broadly, there's discrimination present. Similarly for me, I marketed it in a certain way. Because I didn't market it more broadly, there may have been discrimination present.
I see the analogy, thank you. It really just depends, it's a case-by-case basis. Unfortunately, a lot of these pocket listings or private listings happen in majority white neighborhoods, which means that those houses for sale are not seen by non-white people. And then if you're not working within that brokerage, you don't have access to the homes for sale. And it really goes back to the seller having choice, which I think we agree on. I think everybody agrees the seller should have choice. That's not what we're here to oppose, of course. But it's when a seller goes to their broker and the broker says, let's do this. It's really cool. It's really awesome. It's exclusive. They are never told that your house will never see the light of day. It is only going to stay within that brokerage to the very few people who that broker decides to share that listing with. This disclosure form and information is just to make sure that the seller understands what's actually being sold to them. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just information.
there's already an obligation to inform the seller on options on how to market, and it's really the seller's choice. The problem is this isn't a bill that says we're just gonna have a form. It's a bill that requires the seller's information to be put in a portal and marketed. So it says right here, within 1 calendar day of the start date of any brokerage agreement authorizing the license to sell the client's property, publicly advertise or market the listed property for sale on an internet platform or website accessible to the public. It's in the bill.
Okay, my questions have been answered. Thank you all for your time. I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Moving on, Representative Grant.
This is a very, very volatile testimony, all these testimonies that you're giving here. And I see a lot of emotion, and I see a lot of, this is not true, this is true. I would like to ask the sponsor of the bill, what was your impetus for this bill to begin with? The real true, I mean, you don't have to, I don't want to hear about forms and you know, misbehaving realtors. I just really want to know, you're saying fair housing, correct?
Yes, I read a paper written by the Hispanic Realtors Association, a national organization, speaking about the housing discrimination portion. It spoke to me around housing discrimination, especially coming from the Hispanic Realtors, and I connected with the organization that is working on this, and that's how we got connected to the Fair Housing Organization, as well as everyone you see here.
Okay, thank you. Just this is a really common sense, and I'm surprised. I know that Representative Weaver is having a hard time with the discrimination part of this also. When I live in Wheaton, and I live in Northside Wheaton, which is the historic part of Wheaton. Of course, the prices of homes are going to be higher. I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to sell my house for a lot of money. This discrimination comes in when the person can't afford to get into that neighborhood. Is that what you're saying? No. Well, what is it then? I mean, there's no, I mean, we're not discriminating. I mean, the majority of people who live in Glen Ellen and in Wheaton and even Winfield, the prices of their homes are just high. That's not discrimination, that's the market. So what do you want people, or what do you want realtors to do in an area where it's just like Lake Forest? It's just the way it is. I mean, you can't. Okay, go ahead.
I'll answer that. You know, what I simply want with this bill is disclosure. I want sellers to understand and have the choice and be informed. So I feel like it's an education piece. And so that's what I personally want. I want education. I want folks to have a clear understanding of when they're going to have a private listing, or if they're not going to have it and they're going to have a private listing. That's what I personally want. But I'll ask our witness, our expert witness on housing discrimination, to answer more fully, but thank you.
So I appreciate the connection and the geography. So our office is based in Wheaton, Illinois. We primarily serve DuPage County. And perhaps we're getting a little caught up in this term discrimination, and we should just take a couple steps back and think about what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the effects, the effects that will naturally occur from the economic incentives of these private listing networks. When we talk about discrimination, what we're talking about is segregation, right? So if you're selling your home in Wheaton and you should make as much money as you want, and you're listing it with Wheaton Real Estate, we'll just call them Wheaton Real Estate. That's the folks who are listing it, and they say, put it on the private listing network. You're an elected official. You don't want people coming to you. It makes sense for you. But there are equally well-positioned, economically well-positioned people who might be interested in Wheaton, but they live in Bronzeville. And they make the same amount of money as you, but they go to Bronzeville real estate agent, and they don't have access to your private listing network. So that's what we're talking about. We want to make sure that everyone in your economic bracket who can afford your home has access to see that your home is for sale. And what I'm concerned about is, because we're going to have these private listing networks, it's going to be segregated marketing within your network, within your agent's network, within people that look like us, that work at places like we do, that earn similar incomes. It is, it's not giving diverse sets of eyeballs on the property, and what that does is it perpetuates the segregation that we all inherited. I am not arguing that that anyone is attempting to discriminate. What I am saying, what I'm pleading with everyone to understand is that if we let private listing networks continue to proliferate, the natural outcome will be more segregation. It's just what's going to happen.
Can I just address the point of affordability? Because I apologize to you for missing, I didn't get a, because I cut you off, I didn't get a chance to respond. I'm so sorry about that. I'm just passionate about this. That was my lack of decorum. The affordability, thank you. The affordability is the issue here. And so if you don't have access to the property, you can't afford it. That's not, it's not about people being discriminated against because they can't afford it. It's they don't have access to see it in order to afford it. That's the issue here. Sorry about that again.
Okay, so what you're saying is that realtors that, well, where are these realtors that are not showing their customers all of the access to housing regardless of cost?
So some
Where are
realtors
they?
don't even understand.
Are these like small realtors that you don't, guys just don't trust?
So these are unfortunately just agents and sometimes even broker owners, but agents that don't understand what the private listing network even is. Because the bottom line is when you get a real estate license, you're taught how to, the real estate classes teach you how to pass the class, not how to maneuver the multiple listing service and the separate button you have to press in order to get access to the private listing network and the separate button that you then have to press in order to send those listings separately to a consumer in order to have them see those properties. Do you see what I'm saying here? Where if the agent doesn't even know to click the button because they don't get that training in the classes, then they don't know to even send that property. And I wish I had like I do have my laptop here, but I'm already getting kicked out for decorum. I really, the agent doesn't even know. So it's not even that the agent's a bad actor. Sometimes they're just a dumb actor.
It really sounds like some of your challenges, sir, with the associations and how they train realtors. And maybe you want to take your fight to them, not necessarily here. That's what it sounds like. You're saying that they don't know, so you're talking about the training a realtor gets in order to advertise. So maybe your conversation needs to be with that young lady at the end of the table there.
We're glad to have that conversation.
I actually agree with Representative Davis. I'm having a hard time with this discrimination and making this be helpful to fair housing. Fair housing is what we're talking about, and pretty much you just want to mandate that these little realtors or these local realtors are bad actors, and I'm not really quite, sort of like you don't trust them. So anyhow, I'm going to be a no on this bill. This is all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, I believe this is subject matter only, so we're not taking a vote on it, but no, we're not taking a vote on it. So moving on, Representative Sheehan.
Thanks, Chair Davis. Thank you, Rep, for bringing this forward. I just got a couple quick ones. So if this bill was to be signed into law, how much per listing does Zillow.com and Realtor.com or any public entity make per listing now that a realtor has the responsibility to post this on a public site?
$0. We don't get paid for listings. Actually, a lot of our clients are realtors. We're a member of the Illinois Realtors Association. I actually used to work for Greg Sainabin at Illinois Realtors back in the day. But this does not require your listing to go onto Zillow. It just has to be publicly marketed on a website. So it can go on a broker's website, but the reason why it's an internet platform or website is because the days of going to a brokerage office and looking through a book are over. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore. It does exist, but that's not typically where a seller or a buyer wants to go. They don't want to go into an office, obviously more a buyer. But we don't get paid to have a listing on our property.
these internet platforms generally make money off of ad revenue. So the more people on their platform, the more ad revenue they receive. Also, they do have referrals, so they get money off of referrals to people that go on the platform and ask to get a referral to a real estate agent.
Please add Representative Halbert to the roll, please. Oh, you are on the roll. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Representative Sheehan.
Just one last one for the realtors. So how much would it cost you to publicly list on, let's say, a Zillow or a Realtor.com or some other third party?
I don't think it costs the realtors anything. I don't really know the answer to the question 100%, but I do know that a realtor is bound by their seller to basically disclose and do things lawfully under the Real Estate Licensure Act. So that act is about this thick, and it requires everything that a realtor can do or can't do. Again, as I stated earlier, we are not picking and choosing a winner in this market based on a particular business model. We support all business models. We just believe that it's not good policy to have a legislature picking winners and losers in the market.
Okay, yeah, that was just, I wanted to see if there was any cost, and, you know, let's be honest, usually it gets passed on to the buyer or the consumer. So that was my question. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Closing remarks, Representative?
Sure, thank you. I know we heard from a lot of different perspectives here. That was the purpose of a subject matter hearing, is to kind of air out and have some questions. So I'm very appreciative of all the questions. I feel like we really got to the heart of a lot of different issues. I wanted to share again, you know, the stories that I read about from the National Hispanic Realtors were actually about something slightly different from what we've been talking about. It was around sellers and buyers and consumers that sometimes are Spanish speaking, that sometimes have low education, don't have the resources to really understand this complicated market that we've heard here. And because of that, there have been instances, according to the National Hispanic Realtors, of folks being steered to these private listings unbeknownst to them and not having a clear understanding of what it means. And so there are, as you can see, there are a lot of different kind of pocket markets that we've been talking about: high income, low income, middle income. And so what we finally settled upon when we put this bill together was something that we thought we could bring that was just about transparency. Was just about education. It wasn't about forcing people to do one thing or another. We want to continue to have that choice, but I want to bring us back home to what this bill really does, and what it does is work towards transparency. And you heard from, you know, a realtor who has, you know, processed, you know, I think he said hundreds of thousands of home sales, and he spoke to some of the logistics and how difficult it is, right? And so how can we expect, if we heard about how difficult it is for a realtor, and think about how difficult this conversation or this whole concept could be to someone who doesn't have a lot of information at their fingertips. And so again, I bring us back to what this bill is. It's about education and it's about transparency. And I thank you so much for hearing us out. I think this was a really fruitful conversation. Thank you very much, Chair.
My pleasure, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Thank all of you and your questions. And with that, seeing no further business in front of the Housing Committee, this committee shall be recessed to the call of the chair. Thank you very much.
I love what you guys always do.